What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, January 30th. Believe it or not, we are right this close to the Royal Rumble. Today, though, we're going to be breaking down AEW Dynamite. I am stoked about that. And to break down AEW Dynamite, I need our resident AEW expert. He's hanging out with me across the pond over in Scotland. We got the host of the Soul Sessions, Soul himself. I almost like doubled up on souls there, but how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good as always, brother. Representing a Better Than You Baby shirt, just relaxing in me house today. Studio is actually getting a bit of a renovation right now for me. I've just been chilling after the eventful January I've had, but nonetheless, I thought Dynamite's episode tonight was honestly the best word to describe it is solid. I've seen Allison has given his points, which I'll be making some counteractive criticisms of that today on this, so stay tuned for that. But nonetheless, I thought it was just a solid, good episode of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. I agree for sure. And we got to shout out Shadi before we forget. He was going to be on today's show, but he's got some good stuff going on. There's a reason he's not here. And we're happy for you, Shad. We'll see you soon. No doubt about it. I have a comment that I have to read. I cannot stop laughing here. I make beats with Sub WR folk. Please don't time me out, Clark. I'll be good this time. I promise I will never do that again. I make beats, my friend. I went to the mall, and I don't like going to the mall. Immediately after that show, legitimately to get my trackpad fixed because it got stuck when I was trying to do it to one of the other comments. I sincerely apologize. That will never happen again. But we also have hello from number one Superfly. What's going on, man? Good to have you as always. But let's get right into Dynamite from last night. We've got the Death Riders storyline. Is it working? Is it not? That's going to be our broad question. But we saw them in action last night, obviously, with Claudio picking up the victory against Jarrett, costing him a world title shot. But we also had Yuta taking a loss to Jay White. So 1-1 for the Death Riders last night. But in general, when it comes to the storyline, Soul, what are your thoughts on the direction of it? Is it working? Is it not working for a reason? Is it working for a particular reason? Is there something that we're getting to that's a big reveal that I've been missing?
So let's talk about the matches first, right? Jay White and Wheeler Yuta. I said obviously on yesterday's daily, I wanted it to be on level footing, right? I didn't want it to just be Jay White, teases around, there's a few run-ins, and then Blade Runner done, match is over, right? I feel like with Wheeler Yuta, a lot of people see him as obviously the fall guy. Every group has a fall guy. Bloodlines had it, DX had it. All groups will obviously have a fall guy, but Wheeler obviously is a champion. He's a 1/3 of the trios champion, so he needs to be taken somewhat seriously. And the fact that he was able to hold his own against Jay White in that match and had a good back and forth and that lovely counter into the Blade Runner as a finish, beautiful. I like it. People obviously go, well, Jay White's done this and this and this. Well, remind folks, he's not done anything really obviously cemented himself in AEW as of yet. Obviously, he's won the trios championships and unified with the Ring of Honor six-mans that were ununified. But besides that, most of his bigger accomplishments are obviously New Japan. So in the universe that is this AEW, he's technically on the same level as Yuta because they're, one's a current trios champion, one's a former trios champion. So they have that kind of dynamic and leveling, right? The Claudio and Jeff Jarrett match I thought was solid. I thought it was really fun and enjoyable. Claudio should be AEW World Champion in the future. I feel like him as AEW World Champion would be an exceptional program. The fact that he's multi-language as well, so he can work with, any kind of opponents in any kind of country. Like, imagine a program with him and Rush could be an exceptional one. Him and Hologram, you have that barriers of language that can be broken down and transverse, but that is the program of professional wrestling. But the Death Riders itself, right? Okay. I harped in the Wrestling Republic group chat we have, and also on this, about the AEW Close-Up. That was it's a web series that they do with Renee Paquette, where she interviews wrestlers really out of their environment. She's done it with Adam Copeland. I think she's done it with Willow as well. She's done a lot and a great stuff with it. I think even Osprey as well, and they're great series. The Death Rider one is my favorite one they've done because yes, while it's kayfabe's dead, it's like a personal interview. There are layers to it. She speaks to all the members, but you get the answers. Now, yes, could they have done this months ago? Yes, but there was also answers we got. You look at Mox's return promo. You look at the promo they do after Wrestle Dream where they're in the back of the truck and Mox is explaining his actions. I like the Death Riders. I like the story. I know people hark on about, but it's a company takeover. Well, you watch the close up. It's not a takeover. It's a reshaping. It's what Moxley is building is this. Mox has looked at AEW and said, wow, this place was the oasis. This is what wrestling fans were escaping to, this oasis to go to this watering hole and get refreshed with better wrestling, because at the time wrestling was not as hot as it is now back when AEW started. People came to that oasis, they took from the oasis and they took, but then some point along the watering hole got poisoned, and then people wanted to harp on this oasis. They tore it down. They burned down the oasis. They didn't like this place that was meant to be the pasture of fruitful futures, and they just burned it down. And now people have abandoned it. People want to leave the oasis. And Mox is just like, well, every time this oasis gets, kicked down, I've had to step up. Claudio says it perfectly in the AEW close-up. Every time AEW has needed someone to stand up and be there for the company, it's Mox. He stood up as a champion during the pandemic. He stood up when CM Punk and Brawlout happened. He stood up as well for trying to elevate young talent with the likes of Wheeler Yuta. He's stood up so many times that it's kind of insane for him. And that's what he is. It's like what Claudio says, he's the king of AEW because he literally is the echelon, the hierarchy of AEW. It's why Moxley was reported, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, that he's got like an 8-year contract with AEW because the man's deserved it.
Yeah.
Look at all the advertising when they went on Max. It was Mox at front. Even when Danielson was the champion at the time, Mox was at front. So continuing back on about him now in this with the Death Riders, their goal, from what I got from the close-up, is basically to create more John Moxleys for the betterment of AEW's future. They're not here to destroy AEW. They're not here to, turn the company into a worser state. They are picking off the wrestlers in the company that don't want to be there, that are not standing up to their fullest potentials. Death Riders want to create the best fruitful wrestlers for AEW's future, and they are weeding out the herd. They're weeding out people that don't feel like they belong there. They're weeding out people that can't stand up and do what Moxley did during the pandemic, during Brawlout, and standing up and being the workhorseman for the company. Their sole mission right now is to build up AEW's future by beating down the weeds that are not going to be fruitful for this oasis in the future.
Now I agree with you, and I think that's the direction, that's what the story should be. That they're almost like the false hero. They believe that they're in the right and that they're doing the right thing, even though they're not, and they're using heel tactics often in matches, right? The only complaint that I have, that I wish was a little bit different when it comes to the Death Riders, I wish it was like they were trying to rid AEW of the people that they're targeting. Like, we want you to go somewhere else. You're not welcome here anymore. That would just turn, I think, the heat up on the Death Riders just enough, because like this comment right here, more John Moxley will destroy the future of AEW, MDB 999. That's very extreme. I agree. But if he's making you so mad where he's like trying to get rid of your favorites, like Orange Cassidy, you're not welcome here anymore. It's not like that anymore. We don't have fun like that anymore.
The funny thing is, it's like here's the thing, right? What is John Moxley, Clark? Is he a babyface or heel?
He's a heel right now, but
exactly. But I feel like in modern day wrestling, the modern definition of a heel is warped. Moxley
is. Oh, I would agree.
John Moxley is a perfect heel because people hate him and they don't want him with the championship.
Yeah,
If he was just what MGF is, still the cool heel that gets chanted and all that, then he's not doing his effective job as a heel to be hated. It's not like X-Pac heat. You know, there's a I
thank
can't
you.
say
I
that.
was about to go right there because that's the biggest problem with the current landscape of the heel is the internet has gone crazy with X-Pac heat, and the one that makes my skin crawl is when people say go away heat. I'm like, first off,
Yeah,
it's X-Pac heat, and that's different.
yeah,
Like the let's put it this way, it wasn't X-Pac or go away heat when Kurt Angle was getting you suck chants. That
yeah.
was real heel work. Like, and that's where and this is kind of a fair assessment here. I don't totally agree, but Moxley wants to be the cool heel, though. I don't think he necessarily does. I think the problem is, honestly, he's been cool for so long since he's been in AEW. It's almost hard
Yeah.
to shake that reputation,
Like,
especially quickly.
If you look at Moxley, like, for my imagining point, like, what him would be a cool heel is if he would parade the championship around. But he says in that close-up, it's in a case because you don't need to see the championship. To be a champion, it should be what's inside. And he says, you know, do you want it just for an 8x10? Just want to take a picture of it to sell the belt replicas we have? They're like, no. A cool heel is like MJF coming out and owning it, but not having a mission statement behind it. MJF is just a dick because MJF is just a dick.
Right.
But like,
yeah.
But Moxley is like, yeah, I'm doing bad things, but with my mindset is positive actions for the future. Now, here's the thing as well. I think the reason why the Death Riders is not liked by a lot of people are because of two things. Obviously, people harken back to the Elite storyline. That was more major focus, a heel focus of 2024 for AEW's future as well. But in eyes of factions, we've had probably the best faction going with the Bloodline. So maybe faction storylines are always hampered because when you try and create something that you may view as the Mona Lisa, but the Mona Lisa's been painted for the last 5 years and people are already loving and gushing over that, where does your product lie against something that's regarded so highly by the other audience?
It's so true. And I mean, the belts part of this storyline, though, so is really interesting. Like, you brought up a good point about the selling merch and 8x10, all of that. It would be really interesting if AEW pulled the world title belt merchandise wise. I would respect that. I get, you'll get a lot of blowback. Like, why would they do that? They would sell more of them. It would just give us enough. And I've been saying it for years. And I think this was in some ways an attempt at this, but someday they need to work us. I get that we've had the casual and hardcore conversations numerous times on this very channel, right? Not necessarily just you and I, but like with all kinds of things like, oh, you can't just work towards the hardcore fan base or the IWC and whatnot. But someday we got to get worked. We got to be convinced that so-and-so can't show up because of a contractual thing. We need to actually get worked again, and I'll be tickled by that. But in the moment, until the reveal happens that we were worked, we will be frustrated like we have been at various points of this Death Rider storyline. And that's why I do think that there is a lot that can be done with just getting here now. Like, the more we sit and talk about, like, well, we're just waiting for the next big reveal or what the end game, right? Like, what's the climax of the story? The more that builds, if and when it is something, and we feel worked, that's old school wrestling, and it takes time to do stuff like that.
Even as well, like the Death Rider storyline is continuing on from this show, Collision. They've announced, obviously, Moxley and Yuta are against FTR in a street fight. So there's a continuation on there as well. And I've always seen people hark on about, oh, Dynamite's A show, Collision's B show. In my mind, they're same level for me personally. Yeah. But of course, Dynamite will always be the one that started first, so people always have our appreciation for that. It's like SmackDown and Raw. I don't view SmackDown or Raw as A or B in my mindset. I view them as just WWE programming. Like AEW, I view that as AEW programming. There's no A or B show. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'd rather watch. If I could get this set days off of my work that I could only watch Dynamite, I would do it that way. No, I watch the ones I can work live, but I balance with my work and life balance.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
That's the thing as well. But like, it's continuing on, and I know as well.
Yeah.
This is where I'll say it for the main event, but people harked on about the Mariah May segment, like, why didn't Tony Storm interrupt her? Well, here's the thing. It's a mind game play, right? So Tony Storm has set in Mariah's mind of doubt of like, oh, I thought
Mhm.
I'd gotten rid of the person I idolized and I used to get what I wanted. Or now she's set them in the mindset of, oh, she's here, she's back to that state. I'm going to put on a brave face. And of course, Timeless has been announced for Collision. So, like, you're going to get things to watch the other show. So there's an
And
incentive.
you brought up an interesting point too about the two programs. I would say I probably watch 9 out of 10 Dynamites live, right?
Yeah.
Or I mean, being on the West Coast, on cable, we get it at 8 o'clock. So if I don't catch it on the East Coast airing at 5 o'clock, I watch it West Coast live, even though it's technically a tape delay, right? But then when it comes to Collision, I would say I probably watch 5 out of 10 live. But I'm more inclined to miss the one Dynamite that I do miss out of 10 than I am the 5 collisions that I miss out of 10, because I love Collision and Coffee Sunday morning. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Skip commercials and like.
I would say as well, like, just because you miss out of a program being live doesn't make you any less of a fan. Wherever you watch it in your own time for it is fine. I like live wrestling. I struggle with tape wrestling, but I still don't view it as like, oh, you don't watch it live, so your body's degraded and tired until it's 3 a.m. in the morning. How could you? Like I tell the joke of how I watched Collision in a nightclub because Matt Cardona debuted against Adam Copeland in the TNT Open, and it was funny. But I watched it because I really wanted to see what that was.
What happened?
Again, it was a great awesome match. I bloody loved it. But it doesn't make me any less of a fan if I decided to catch it the next day in the morning. Like sometimes before I go to work, if I can't go and watch Dynamite Collision live, I'll watch it before I go to work, and I'll have just as much, or maybe even a wee bit less, of an enjoyment watching it. But and then again, going back to the Death Riders, is the main thing I go back to is, should Death Riders be a year-long program within AEW? And in my personal opinion, no, I don't think it should be a year-long program. I think it should end at All in Texas, because that show is very monumental for AEW, the first stadium show in the States.
I think they kind of crumble at that. Is a very good future call there. So I would agree with that.
And I know a lot of people have gone on to about,
and that isn't
Darby Allin.
It's not that, though. It isn't a year, but it isn't it'd be like, that would make it what, an 10 month? It
would be probably around maybe
seeds
a 10
were planted
program.
around September.
The only thing because of that is, like, when you're going to, obviously in the future you have Forbidden Door, what new things do you have for your audience? Because if Moxley's the champion there, he's gone against the likes of Tanahashi, he's gone against the likes of Naito in the past. There isn't really new fresh matchups. But when you have somebody like a lot of people want it to be Darby Allin that wins, and if Darby Allin wins, Forbidden Door match, Darby Allin versus Gabe Kidd. We've seen what Gabe Kidd has done at Wrestle Kingdom. Imagine if you get those two in a Forbidden Door atmosphere with him going for the AEW World Championship, and a local boy at that. That's going to really split the audience, but it would be a stellar match. But of course, I respect Moxley's position within AEW because he has stepped up so many times.
Yeah.
I hope the storyline works. There are cracks within the Death Riders faction, but every faction does. At least they have a female representation in the faction, unlike the Bloodline.
I think Marina's done a good job.
I think Marina has done a good job as the guardswoman, but I would like to see her going in some matches. But then again, it harkens back to the title pictures. There's too many heels, so we need to get some baby faces on those titles. Then we can have more matchups. But speaking of baby faces, why don't we get into the
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm like, let's keep it rolling. We got Will Ospreay. We got Brian Cage. I really enjoyed this match. It was awesome. I was fascinated by the finish Styles Clash. Ospreay's been using that often, and I like that he's become, I mean, he's always had sort of multiple ways to finish you, but I sort of do like this modern, yes, you have certain finishers that are like protected, but guys can finish matches multiple ways, a la Bryan Danielson with the Busaiku knee and then the Lobel lock. There's a bunch of them like that, whether it's the Bulldog choke and the paradigm shift with Mox, speaking of, right? Like Ospreay, you can get the Tiger Driver, you can get the Hidden Blade, you can get the Styles Clash, right? There's just a number of choices, and I think that makes things exciting. Even over on the WWE side, like Gunther, same thing. He can finish the match 2 or 3 different ways. It's not just like formulaic where it's like, oop, there's the attitude adjustment again. Like that's, I guess he had the STF at the same time, but still, either way, my point is, I enjoy that. I enjoyed this match. What were your thoughts on it? I mean, it's funny because Brian Cage was such a big deal when he got signed, and he's still so good. I'm waiting for the big breakout, but I knew it wasn't going to be against Will Ospreay last night. I knew it'd be a great match, but it's just, that's not his big break. I don't know if that's coming ever, but heck of a worker, man, and you can match him up against anybody.
Brian Cage, obviously, he's done a lot. Obviously, he was in Lucha Underground. He's a former Impact World Champion. He has had a lot of high credentials, but of course, as I spoke of with the Death Riders and the Bloodline, every faction has a fall guy. Brian Cage has just sadly been given that role, because when you look of the likes of Lance Archer, he needs more building up than Brian Cage. Like, Brian Cage can take a loss in my mindset. Lance Archer can he really? He needs more building up. And of course, the Murder Machines have won against Top Flight on a collision in the past. I believe, in my mindset, Hurt Syndicate should be face. I hope they turn face, so you could have a Murder Machine and Hurt Syndicate feud down the line, because I think that would be very entertaining. Obviously, as well, Brian Cage, when he came into AEW, he debuted with alongside Taz, and was the reunited of the FTW Championship with Team Taz. Teamed with Ricky Starks. They had the blow-off feud. Ricky became FTW champion, and then drifted for a wee bit. I don't think he was on TV for a good while as well. But the thing is like, not everyone can get the shining moment or the development of the likes of Will Ospreay. There will be people in AEW like Brian Cage, Aaron Solo, that are not going to get the same presentation or build up as someone like Will Ospreay or Mercedes Moné or Kenny Omega, just like people in WWE like Apollo Crews or Zoe Starks, or even people like in TNA. Like not everyone can be the breakout star that gets the 6 pages of back pages of lore that go into their character. Some people just get the 1 page and the 1 page of accolades. And also, if different environments, you will thrive and become something that you can't be in the other environment.
Yeah.
It did what it had to, but obviously within the Don Callis family, the main breakout stars they want to focus on are Takeshita and Fletcher. That's what they're building to with Grand Slam Australia. And Brian Cage is, honestly, in my mind, a key part of that building up, because he's building up that Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega are on the same wavelength because they can beat the same opponent. But as together, how will Kenny and Ospreay fare against two individuals that, Fletcher has a win over Ospreay. Obviously, Ospreay got that win back in the Continental Classic, but Takeshita still has 2 wins over Omega in singles competitions. Kenny's not, gotten that back. So there is that element of Takeshita's career that puts into the heartbreaking aspect. Does it match up when somebody has a 1-1 record, or does it match up when somebody has a 0-2 record?
It would be interesting to see Ospreay sort of mention that about Kenny when they start to clash with Takeshita. That would be a really, really fascinating angle. I would be all over that. Like hey, I've beaten them all. What about you?
Generally, I would like to see Fletcher and Takeshita win at Grand Slam Australia, and Ospreay and Ospreay Omega just look at each other and like, do you still have this? I'm going to prove it. Revolution, let's go. And Ospreay and Omega have a match.
That'd be cool.
Just to not as a babyface versus heel, or in fact, it's a proving match.
Yeah.
Ospreay once says, I know what you did with Gabe Kidd, but that was over there. Do you have it for AEW? Let's prove it in the ring in Los Angeles.
I would love that. I would be all over that. I mean, give me Omega Ospreay anytime you want. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't need to be babyface heel. It doesn't need to be some sort of traditional deal. You can run that match almost any time without a storyline, and they can just tell one in the ring. They'll figure that out, right? Like those two guys can definitely do that. Okay, let's go really quickly though and talk about some of our friends here really fast. Let's talk about our friends over at Demand Progress. Shockingly, yes, we do. Demand Progress Plus. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. It's one of the best tape libraries, streaming services. If you're a wrestling fan, you can possibly find. And better yet, we're going to give you a discount. Use the code WatchProgress1 to get 50% off your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress, Defy, and many more promotions. Some of your absolute favorites on there. Check it out. I assure you, one more time on that code. That's use code WatchProgress1, 50% off your first month. But also, while you're up, doesn't matter what phone you have, get over on the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the Itsy app. Then head over to the upcoming streams section. There's going to be a live stream previewing the Royal Rumble. And the best part of it is if you want to get on there and argue with me or Ben or one of the other creators, whoever it may be, about whatever you want, could be Cody Rhodes, could be anything, whatever. If you disagree with my opinions on AEW today, feel free to join, and you got your shot to jump in the call really quick with video and audio, and just have a nice little chat. It's going to be an absolute blast. Download that absolutely and head over to the upcoming stream section. But let's keep it rolling on this show today. Sorry, let me find the graphic there, my friends. Apologize for that slight delay. But we've got Jeff Jarrett, Double J, and he has his dreams crushed. It's AEW World Title picture. Claudio Castagnoli picks up the victory, much to the delight of Maxwell Jacob Friedman, which tickled me. Of course, Max loves to just he's the ultimate, I'm just going to poke you right in the middle of the cut. If you have a cut, he's just going to poke it. He is a bully's bully. He's just a mean guy, and I love everything. MJF tickles me. There's just he gets it. He gets it, what it is with pro wrestling, and it works for the first time in a long time. And I want to give a lot of credit to Jarrett himself, but I do think Max deserves some credit. He had me sitting there being like, dang it, poor Jarrett. And that took a lot. You know me, Soul. I'm still bitter about the way Jarrett treated the roadie when I was a kid, because I was a huge roadie fan. It did end up bringing us Road Dogg, but he sang the song. It bothers me to this day. I was 5. I'm like, it's the roadie. It's not him singing. He's lip syncing. It was awesome. One of the best 90s storylines. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch. But as far as last night's concerned, yeah, I mean, I don't think this necessarily means for sure Jarrett goes without a title shot before this retirement date he's given. You never know. He beats Max. It's possible, but it does seem to be that's the story they're telling. Do you think that's official, or do you think this is something we can flip around potentially, or that was the rug was pulled fully out on the idea of Jeff Jarrett actually having a title shot?
Here's the thing. I don't think Jeff Jarrett will become AEW World Champion. I do think he'll get a title shot, and it will be a career versus title match. I do 100% think, and Tony Khan would be a dafty for not doing this, to have him win the Owen Hart Cup, to get that Owen Hart belt for either the 2025, and hopefully he could still earn it for the 2026 opportunity. That would be great, and I want him to win that, and I think he should. I'm also glad they didn't ditch Jarrett and MJF as a feud, because some people were like, oh, they've now pivoted to him and Hangman, but no, they're setting up. MJF and Jarrett will happen at Revolution. After that, MJF will come out and is prepared to beat down Jarrett, but Hangman will make the save, cementing his babyface turn. Because we've seen it with Hangman on Dynamite. He was looking for Swerve. Why are you looking for Swerve? Of all people on that roster, you're looking for Swerve. Are we going to get a segment of Hangman's going to give him a key and be like, I stabbed you, I beat you, I nearly cost you your championship, I burned down your house. So here's a key to a condo in, San Francisco or something like that, as a little recuperance ward. That'd be funny. But this is all setting up to build up bigger things, because a Hangman face redemption feud against someone so villainous like MJF will be a moneymaker in my mind. I think so 100%. And Jeff Jarrett as well. People just like to reverbal, diarrhea on all this, verbal diarrhea, or just how people's oh, he never drew a dime, or he was the Triple H
Not
of
true, yeah.
TNA is look at Jeff Jarrett's career. He was important part of the WWF in the early 90s, Intercontinental Champion, leading on to China become the first women's Intercontinental Champion. Did some stuff in WCW, wasn't the best, but he then built TNA, a company that gave the likes of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe their elevating platform. CM Punk as well in the early days. Kurt Angle giving him a second run when things didn't work out with the WWE in the early 2000s. It's now the reason why Joe Hendry's the world champion. We've got this partnership that people love to gush over. But hey, it started with Jarrett in the early 2000s. So you got to put some flowers on his name.
Arguably the only person ever to actually work Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
I mean, he got like he basically fleeced him for $250,000 on the way out the door. And that's absolutely genius. Like it's wild to think about. Now, I will say this. David Modge in the comments here, good friend of the show, said Jeff Jarrett sang a good song too, though. And he said, can't wait to get my home to my baby tonight. No. Go back. That was Road Dogg, the roadie. His roadie was singing the entire time, and it was Jeff lip syncing. He did not sing that song. My Baby Tonight? No. That's Road Dogg. But the video and the eventual reveal that it wasn't Jeff singing is actually an iconic storyline, truthfully. And I actually agree with a lot of what you said. So, I mean, it was the birth of the Road Dogg. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, David, you got to go back and watch it. It's the birth of the Road Dogg. He was a roadie for the band. He was a roadie. His name was the Roadie. I know I've said roadie now like 900 times on the show, but neither here nor there. Shout out Road Dogg. But yeah, he that was his character. You know, he carried the band equipment around and whatnot. But the reality was he was the only one that had actual singing talent. So he sang the song, and Jeff was the star. And yeah, no, that was the roadie became Road Dogg. That's the evolution of a name right there in wrestling. It's an interesting one.
Absolutely.
But let's move on to our final topic of this evening, afternoon, morning, depends on where you are.
Oh, good, because I want to go.
Monet.
I got to go in all on this because
are you muted, Soul? People... Your audio went out.
Oh, I'm just
for some reason I can't hear you.
You can't hear me,
Soul. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
I don't know what's going on here. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. Yeah, it's odd.
All right, that's weird.
Can the fans hear Soul? Can anyone hear Soul? Maybe like try rejoining or something. I don't know. Did something come unplugged? You got it? Perfect. We'll see Soul here shortly, but I will break down this one really quick for y'all. Yuka Sakazaki is, I believe I said that correctly. Yes, I did. Is first off as good as advertised. I had no idea that was going to be the deal.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's really odd. I can't hear you. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
All right, that's weird. I can hear you.
I'll keep going. You try to fix the audio if I can hear you. So we've got Yuka versus Mercedes. Mercedes, we know, can go with anybody. Gory Special picks up the victory via pinfall. It's been an interesting run for Mercedes Moné. I understand. Wait, you can hear Soul? How come I can't hear Soul? Can you not hear me?
Well, can you hear me now, Clark?
This is so odd. I don't even know what happened now. If you can hear Soul, then yep, I fixed it. Never mind. Try again, Soul. Talk. Really quick. Can you hang on? I think it's on my end, Soul. Truthfully, I really do. Try again.
Yeah, I'm talking.
So bad. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what's going on over on my side here. But I am going to go to you really quickly. All right, Soul, and then I'll be right back and try to fix my audio, okay? So you talk to me about Mercedes Moné and retaining the title.
All right, this is weird then. All right, cool. So here's the thing, right? A lot of people give Mercedes Moné a lot of flack, and I believe in my mind, it's simply because she's not in the company that people want her to be in. Truthfully, that's it. And people get facts wrong. Like people say she has 4 titles. Well, she has 4 belts, but she has 3 titles because the Revolution Pro Women's Championship is the continuation of her championship, and the Queen of Southern Championship was a promotion that Rev Pro acquired in 2020, and it's a defunct belt. That's why it's called the Undisputed Women's Championship, because she holds both of those belts. It's championship's discretion if they want to come out with the 1 belt or the 2 belt. Now, the thing continuing on with this, I thought her and Yuka Sakazaki was a great match, and I've seen people just flack on that, oh, women's main event, they don't want to see that, or they feel like it didn't have enough time, or they're just doing this just to silence fans, right? I don't use Twitter. I hate Twitter. And 100% of my mind, I just hate Twitter. So I'm not seeing any of this. Now, whether these are from actual valid opinions, or they're just from annoying troll counts, or they're just from WWE fans, or people that just really hate on AEW, cool, that's you. I don't care, right? I just want to watch the wrestling and have fun. I had a feeling in 100% of my mind going to the show that the title would main event because it is a title. And it's, a title that's been defended quite a fair amount of time. And I enjoy it. I think Mercedes Moné is one of the best women's wrestlers out there. She has great matches. I like the CEO character. I like her promo. She is good. She gets reactions. She is a good professional wrestler. People just harp on her because she's not in the company they like, or the way she left WWE. Right? I don't personally get it. They did great for what they had. People saying, "Oh, they just put this as the main event just to silence people about the women's wrestling." I don't really think so. Like, this got the main event because, again, it was for a title. It's people's opinions. Hey, fair enough. You're allowed to have that opinion.
Yep.
But then I can, say, well, hey, here's this and this and this. What's your thoughts on that? And that's it. But at the end of the day, discussion is good. Now, if this match went, 2 or 3 minutes, then that is a bit of a digression. I also don't think they should have done all those recap packages before the match.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. That's what they did. But I enjoyed the match. I thought the match was good. I like Mercedes Moné as the TBS champion. I wonder who will dethrone her. That's a good question there. But I think her as champion would be fine. I think she's also become an international representation for AEW with her Japanese belt and her UK belt. When will she be on a Revolution Pro show? That's a big question there. Will she only hold the championship until Forbidden Door, then maybe do the Rev Pro show before that and then drop it? Will she actually make trips to the UK to do some of the live-in shows that Revolution do, like in London or Sheffield? That's a bigger question in my mind than the TBS Championship. She's cemented that. New Japan
I agree.
Strong. New Japan Strong will be on the New Japan shows in the US. What's about the Revolution Pro belt? What's the plans for that? That's the main question in my mind. But just to say you didn't like this match because it was women's wrestling, or because the only time you've ever touched a woman is when you were birthed. Like, cool, if that's you weird basement dwellers, that's your point of view.
Okay.
I enjoyed the match. I like seeing them. But Clark, what's your thoughts, brother?
I am so glad, first off, that I made it back and fixed the audio thing, which was entirely on my end. I actually don't know what happened. I got to figure that out later, but it's all worked out now. Here's what I will say about this one. I'm in total agreement on there's bitterness about the fact that she left the WWE. That's where a lot of the Sasha Banks hate. I'm like, call her Sasha Banks if you're gonna hate, because that's why.
Yeah.
It's because don't even say Mercedes Moné. You don't watch her. If you're complaining, you don't. Is my thoughts. And not only that, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna go a little wild.
Oh boy.
Go back and look at the 4 horsewomen. Of the 4, you know who has the highest ceiling still right now? Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, not close. Hollywood crossover, does what she wants, controls her own destiny, not afraid to stand up to the authority back in the day, dropping the titles the way they did. Not only that, Mandalorian appearance. She still, right now, in AEW even, has the highest ceiling for potential earnings and future of any of the 4. And I would go as far as to say she's the best in the ring of the 4. I think bell to bell, she can put on the best match with the other 3. And yes, I understand that they're not all in the same company, but I don't care. So if you're just bitter at Mercedes Moné for doing her thing, knock that off. That's stupid.
Yeah. I want to respond to Numero's one Superfly comment, if you could bring that up there, because it's an interesting question.
Yes.
Obviously, who's next? That's the big thing, right? Who's next? Soraya is a very good one because there's a lot of history behind there.
I mean, obviously with the injury.
Yeah, obviously, if you know, it's the injury that took Saraya out was obviously from a missile drop kick, I believe,
I
from
think, yeah, shotgun
Mercedes.
drop kick to the back.
So if they could play upon that, if obviously if the women want to, if that's something they want to explore and have that be a storyline, that would be something that I think a lot of people can sink their teeth into. In
Yeah.
my mindset, obviously, Anna Jay can't challenge for the women's championship because of the conditions of her match against Mariah May on a collision. That she can't challenge it until Mariah drops it.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Jay, like what I've always said is where TNA failed, I hope AEW succeeds, and I think they do to some expertise
Some
and
degree.
yeah, in some degree, is when you have older, keyword older ex WWE people coming in with titles, they should drop it to a young star. Not saying
Yeah.
that someone like Mercedes Moné is old, or even
No.
it's like somebody like Jericho, but like
Yes.
with Mercedes Moné, she is so like loved by female wrestling fans and female wrestlers that I would like her to see it drop to somebody who hasn't held a championship. So while I know a lot of people want to see like Willow or Jamie Hayter get it, or even Statlander, I think it should go to somebody who's not had that opportunity yet to hold
Uh,
the women's belt or the
Anna Jay, you
TBS.
mentioned earlier, I would not mind at all.
Anna Jay is the one I think would make sense and I would like to see, but like somebody else that I keep thinking about and I'm just like, could that work? Could that work? And would it be interesting? I kind of it's hard because saying this person names of like that, I think it would be interesting. It could work. I would like to see it go to Taya Valkyrie.
Oh, I think that's a great call. Oh, you know what? If you're gonna use a veteran, Taya would be awesome.
For the veteran standpoint, but for somebody who I think AEW have grown. This is a
Yeah.
woman who has grown and gotten over with the fans, and as somebody who was, to my knowledge, not really in the WWE at all. I don't know if she's
Right.
done indies.
Well, she
Harley
did.
Cameron.
She was Frankie Monet or whatever. No, yeah.
Yeah. But another name
So
is Harley
technically, it's
Cameron.
what is it? Monet versus Monet. I'm kidding. Harley Cameron's a great name.
Harley Cameron is the one I really do think should drop, like, should take the TBS. Valkyria, Laya Valkyrie, if you don't have that
Yeah.
plan in place, because like somebody who's well established and can hold the belt and elevate it, and then Mercedes go into the main title picture that I think could benefit for someone like her, or let her be the international star to represent these international belts. But Harley Cameron should get the belt in my mind as
Oh,
well.
Harley Cameron would be
Like,
great. She's so entertaining.
because Harley Cameron has elevated herself. She's gotten over. She's got a match against, I believe, Liar on Collision.
Taya, yeah, on
Taya
Collision.
Valkyrie. Sorry. Oh, there's just so many names of so many
Lyra,
women.
Lyra Valkyria, Taya
Yeah,
Valkyrie. It's
Taya
brutal.
Valkyrie. Oh God, that's a tongue twister and a half. But
It
yeah,
gets me every single time. I call Lyra. I used to call Lyra Valkyria on off the air on NXT. Taya Valkyrie on accident all the time.
But like, she's got a match against Taya on Collision, and Mercedes' whole thing was you've never won a match in AEW. Now, if she wins that match, like
Boom, boom,
Harley could
boom.
go, Harley could go to her and be like, hey, I've done it. Give me a match. And Mercedes might just do it of like, all right, let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right, cool. And you do the match. I wonder if it could be similar to like Mandy Rose and Roxanne Perez in NXT 2.0, where nobody was expecting it, but it happened and the
Yep.
title changed hands. You do that in Grand Slam Australia, and you have Harley, because
pretty cool.
Here's the thing, right, about international crowds and doing that. A lot of people think when people go over and they're the hometown favorite, there's at least going to be one title change. We saw it at Clash of the Castle Scotland with Alba Fire and
Right.
Isla Dawn getting the tag belts, right? It was just there to appease the Scottish crowd with a good title win. If Timeless Tony Storm's not going to win the belt and you want to continue on with Mariah May as a heel, okay, what do you do then? Because unless they're going to do Jay White versus Mox, Jay White isn't winning the belt as of yet, sadly.
No
But
question.
do the switch. I would have Harley Cameron become the TBS champion at Grand
That'd be
Slam Australia,
outstanding.
and think of the matchup you get. You could then run back the Vendetta and her with Deonna Purrazzo and Taya.
Absolutely.
You could run Marina Shafir with Harley Cameron, and then add more gold to the Death Riders. You
No, I
could
love
then
it.
You could then have a heel Hikaru Shida come back, and that could be an interesting program. Or
Oh,
even Britt
Sheeta.
Baker, or even Britt Baker as a heel. I genuinely think
Yeah,
it
it
would be a
opens a
missed
lot of good doors.
Exactly. I genuinely
I
think, and I'll wrap it up here because I know we're got for
Go
cut
ahead.
for times.
Yeah, you're good.
If they do Harley Cameron versus Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship at Grand Slam Australia, and they don't drop the title to her, it's a missed opportunity.
100%. I'm with you on that, and I love the idea on Harley Cameron. But that does bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. That's noon Pacific. That's 3 o'clock on the East Coast. That's 8 o'clock p.m. in the UK, and of course 9 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. Thank you on behalf of me and Soul for tuning in, and we will talk to everybody soon. Have an excellent weekend. And like I said before, we'll talk to you soon.